Hi, welcome to For the Culture, the center point of art and entrepreneurship. Before we get into today's episode, I wanted to just first of all say that by now at this point, For the Culture is now on all major streaming platforms. So it's on Spotify, Apple's podcast app, and it's also on like Overcast and Google Play and all that stuff. So before you forget, you should go and follow us on all those places, SoundCloud as well, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and you'll be able to see all sorts of crazy shit that we're basically getting up to behind the scenes of these podcasts. So go ahead and follow. But in today's episode, we have a visual artist who I didn't know who was a visual artist, and I've known her for years. You know, I've known this person for a long time through mutual friends, and it's really friggin' surprising to me. But she's done a great job at what she does. She's got tons of followers on her Instagram page, and she sells her own art, and she applies it to mugs and like all sorts of different things. And I'm just like, what the hell? Where have I been? So today we have Jaide Bateman, and we also have her boyfriend Mike. Thank you for joining us, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course. So, how you guys doing?
Pretty good, thank you.
Yeah, good.
Great. Cool. Awesome. So, before we start this, I want you obviously know that I've been holding off on all my questions. So, the thing that I want to start off with, that I always start with everybody, is how did you start getting into this? And did you keep it like fairly low key, like the whole painting thing for a while, or how?
Yeah, well, I've always been a painter. I've been painting since middle school, probably. I always took like a lot of art classes all through school, and I took a hiatus after high school for about six years or so. Intermittently, I'd do a couple little bits, but I really started hammering it out this past year just because I realized that I haven't really been embracing my creative side for a long time, so I decided to take the plunge and just start up my studio and just get at it, basically.
Cool. That's awesome. And when you first started, was it very much this abstract style that you're doing now, or was it something completely different?
I was always trying to pursue a level of realism, and I realized at one point that it wasn't me and it wasn't my style. And when I actually started to embrace abstract, I really found myself and my movement in my painting. And that really shot my work to a new level. Right.
Okay. Sounds good. So at what point would you say that the whole abstract thing started to come into it during your time? Was it like after high school, like after you figured out that you want to get back into it again?
Yeah, it was, mostly in high school. I was pursuing that realism. And it was really just in this past year that I started getting into abstract, and I started with what's called paint pouring. It's literally just where you're just mixing paint and just pouring it on the canvas and just letting it flow. And I found it really therapeutic to be able to just release the paint without actually thinking about where it's going. And I always thought it was really cool looking on top of that. So it's that's sweet.
Nice. Okay. And so Mike, what have you thought about all of this? Like when you first met her, I've actually no idea what your dating situation has been. You're engaged?
We're engaged. Yeah, we just got engaged a couple months ago.
Congratulations. Damn. Well, this isn't really a dating podcast, but that's very, very cool to know. So, so the painting came before Mike did then, I'm assuming?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. And Mike, at what point did you what kind of style was she doing when you met her?
Well, it was kind of, just a little bit of everything, sort of back into the experimentation of it again. She was really sort of, flourishing again, because when we first met, she didn't have a whole lot of space to paint and all of that. So then when we moved in together, she sort of got the opportunity to start painting again. And it was a little bit of sort of realism, but kind of in an abstract direction. And you could definitely tell that she was painting to sort of find how she could get the emotion on the canvas, sort of how she wanted, kind of thing. So it was a bit of an experimental period at the start. Yeah.
Okay. And in terms of the painting that you do, are you trying to like convey a particular emotion every time people see it, or is it sort of more of like just for yourself? It's open to interpretation. You're just expressing yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of different aspects in a lot of my different pieces. Some of them have a specific meaning, and it's a lot of them it's fairly obvious, but some of them I just painted it because I like the colors and I like to blend them.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's very cool. And where do you find the inspiration to do what you do? What do you find the inspiration in, I mean?
Well, there's other artists, of course. I mean, there's a lot of other artists that I follow that I really emulate or like that I really admire. But for the most part, I'm just kind of finding my way through the paint and trying to create a sense of movement in a lot of my pieces. So you'll find that I have a lot of sort of wavy pieces, and where the paint is like being dragged through the painting rather than actually being like just detailed.
Right.
So I always try to create like a sense of a direction on the canvas.
Right. And instead of using like paintbrushes and stuff like that, you use wedges.
Yeah.
So why do you use wedges over paintbrushes or another medium?
They just create such an intriguing pattern, and the way that you can really push paint around with them. I've used many different things in my paintings. I'll grab anything in the kitchen basically and try it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anything super weird that you've tried before?
I have tried a couple knives and spatulas specifically. I like to tear the heads off the spatulas and go to town. And Mike's like, we don't have any spatulas. What's happening?
I go to cook dinner and I'm like, what happened? Why do I only have handles now?
That's hilarious. You haven't tried to use food as a way of like pushing paint around, have you?
No, that's a terrible idea.
Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, of course, obviously. Very cool. That's awesome. And so, but when you first started though, you were using brushes and stuff like that?
Yeah, when like in high school and stuff, that's how we were always traditionally taught. And
Right.
so I was always trying to like really force the details and get intricate. And it's like, you know, in this way I can just take a huge squeegee, or I can take my catalyst wedge and I can just smear the paint around and see where it goes. Sometimes it's awful, but a lot of times it's really cool, the effects you can get.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. How long do you typically take on a piece?
Actually, I'm a really fast painter. I usually don't spend more than 2 or 3 days on a painting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of my best pieces were no more than 4 hours.
Wow, that's wild. I find that sometimes when I'm making the music that I make, I often, if I don't spend too much time working on it, sometimes those are the songs that come out best. So you probably experience that while you're painting as well.
Yeah, it just allows me to not overthink so much, because I find that if I keep dwelling on a painting for too long, I'll just keep working it until the canvas is just brown from mush, you know?
Yeah.
And so it just kind of allows me to just be like, okay, I'm done and I've signed it and that's it. I'm not touching it again.
Yeah. That makes sense. And Mike, for you, what's it like as, say, the boyfriend, or just sort of like the partner, like on your end? What's it like to live with an artist and just sort of like be with that person?
Well, you definitely have to be very open to it. Mm-hmm. And, at first I, had a hard time sort of understanding like the level of dedication that goes towards it. But I've definitely realized that it's just part of who she is and the personality, and you just have to be there to support the other person, and they have to know that you're there behind them as well. So, and it means, picking up some of the other little things every once in a while, like cook more dinners, but then I get to become a better cook.
Yeah.
So it's really good though, because I do enjoy watching her paint, and it's been really exciting to see the level of progression, especially being able to commit the time and the space in our home to it has really allowed her the ability to expand on things, try new things, and it's just amazing to watch, because I'm like some of the people that, when she does live paintings, like I'm watching her put paint on a canvas for the first time and spreading it around, and I go do something else and come back an hour later and something totally different is on there, and it just amazes me, and I look at it and go, I have no idea how you pulled that out of your mind and got that got that on the canvas and had that just pop the way it does or whatever, and it just baffles me, but it's amazing, and I enjoy watching it. It's something beautiful.
What's your favorite painting?
Oh, that is a tough question. Well, every time I think I finally have picked out a favorite painting, I look at another one and something else in it stands out. And so it's really hard to actually pick a favorite.
Okay.
But if I had to commit to one, probably, oh gosh, it'd be down between the Big Blue Bird or maybe War Pig. That was pretty cool.
War Pig looks cool. Yeah, and I think I've seen the Bluebird one as well. Do you focus a lot on animals when you're doing it, or is it just sort of like it just sort of comes?
Yeah, they just kind of manifest themselves, and I'm just like, oh, okay, there's a pig on fire. Here we go.
Okay, yeah. If it works, it works.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Cool. And so you've also graduated from just doing canvas painting to also going on to mugs and stuff that people would actually use. So when did you start doing that?
I've actually only started that in the past probably 2 months or so, since I've been attending the East Kelowna Market on Sundays. So I'm there pretty much every Sunday, and I was noticing a lot of people are walking around and they're not prepared to buy a large piece, right? That they are appreciative of the art, but they want something that's a little more accessible. And so I was like, why not try transferring my artwork onto smaller, more functional sort of art? Because a lot of people are like, yeah, it's great, but I don't know where I would put it. Well, a mug, I mean, you put it in your
cupboard,
right?
Yeah.
Like, it's easy for them. They're like, oh, I love mugs. I collect mugs.
Yeah, totally. So, have you expanded beyond just mugs? Are you doing other things too?
Yeah, I've been working into other sort of ceramics. I use alcohol ink on them and create different patterns. I have a couple videos on my Instagram of like coasters that I'm just lighting on fire, and that's the alcohol ink just lights on fire and creates these cool patterns, and it's really neat.
So are you transferring your paintings that you do onto the mugs and coasters and stuff, or is it just sort of like you just paint on those? Yeah,
they're just little mini canvases basically. I'm just hand painting them.
Right, and you use a sealant to like obviously seal the paint in so they don't wear off. I remember reading actually on one of your descriptions that you don't have dishwasher safe sealant, and I was curious, what's the difference? Why doesn't that work and hand washing is fine?
Well, because the dishwasher is such high heat and such high pressure a lot of the time, you might be able to get away with it on delicate in the top rack, but my main concern is just the longevity of them. I want to be able to produce something that's quality, but I also want to be able to give the user like an awareness that, this is a handmade piece. This isn't made in a factory. You can't treat it in the same sort of way. And the sealers that are available for artists are not as heavy duty as what they have industrially. So I really try to make sure that people know that when they're buying them, that you do have to be careful with it. I mean, it can do some damage for sure. You can put it in the microwave. You can hand wash it and use soaps and all that stuff. But you don't want to be, scrubbing it and going crazy, right?
Yeah, definitely. Because the sealant could wear off. The painting could just basically be ruined by that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. And I've noticed that you're now also incorporating a lot of like gold accenting.
Yeah, I am loving the gold right now.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Oh, it's so great.
Yeah, so what made you want to get into that?
Well, I've always loved metallics, and I've been trying to incorporate some metallics into some of my paintings as well, my canvas paintings. I think it's just such an eye catcher, and people love shiny things. So
yeah, they do. I love shiny things.
Exactly, me too.
Well, and it also adds that effect that depending on what angle you look at it, you're going to get a different
shade.
Yeah, different shades, different sheens, and basically sort of like a different piece depending on how you're looking at it.
Yeah.
And it almost moves across the mug as you turn it and look at it in the light.
Yeah.
So
it adds like a lot more dimension to what you're doing that way, right?
Yeah, it makes it more dynamic.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. So, and in terms of like what you're doing, you have the actual prints themselves, which totally vary in size, and then you also have the prints. You also do prints of your canvases, and you sell them off to people. So, what are the price ranges like for what you're doing?
I try to keep it as affordable as possible because I can get it fairly affordably priced, so I figure I should pass that along to my clients. And it varies between $15 for like a 5x7 up to about $55, depending on the paper weight and stock, for a 16 by 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And I can do larger. It's just on request. I don't carry them on hand.
Right, that makes sense. And in terms of the actual prints, or sorry, not the prints, when it comes to the actual canvases, how much do those typically cost?
Well, again, it varies. I try not to put emotion into my pricing, which can be difficult.
Yeah.
I usually try to use a certain amount of formula of price per square inch factored in, but most of my originals range from a smaller piece being like a 24 by 24 at about $120 up to $550 is my most expensive piece.
Right. Okay. Very cool. Very cool. And so do you always go to the East Kelowna market to show off your stuff?
Well, I was there every weekend, every Sunday in the spring, and I plan to do the same in the fall. Over the summer, I have to work Saturdays at my current job, so I'm doing alternating weekends.
Oh, I see. Okay. Very cool. Very cool. And do you ever showcase your work in other places besides there?
I have a couple other markets coming up. I did, in high school, I had a couple pieces at the Kelowna Art Gallery as a student showing sort of thing. But
Right.
Other than that, I've also got a place coming up at Bliss Bakery. I will be showcasing a couple pieces there in 2019.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's sick. Do you already have the ones that you want up there just sort of selected already?
I have an idea, but I'm sure that will change because, like I said, I paint fast and
Yeah.
I really like to get it down when I can.
Tomorrow's
Yeah.
a new day.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally. A new day, another two pieces, right, Jade?
That's right.
Yeah, that's wild. Okay, so I also wanted to get into sort of what was this art battle? It happened
yes.
May 1st for you, right?
That's right.
Yeah, 2018, May 1st. So how was that like? What is that?
It was so cool. It's basically you've got a whole bunch of local artists coming together to battle against each other, canvas to canvas, in a circle, and you are in a 20-minute time crunch to fill your canvas and get votes and be the most voted for painter. All of the pieces were up for auction at the end of the event.
Right.
And it was just a really cool, upbeat event to go to. It was so unique.
Very cool. Is that a common thing around here? Because I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, it happens once or twice a year. This was
Okay.
my first time participating,
Yeah.
but my understanding is it happens a few times a year, yeah.
Ah, cool. And that, okay, so what was the other styles of everybody else like?
Oh, it varied so wildly. It was very cool, actually. We had one lady, she was doing like a very Aboriginal style of like, an eagle, and it was beautiful. And there was a bunch of other abstract artists too, and just so many different styles.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Do you find that in Kelowna there's a lot of people that emulate are inspired to make the same style of painting as you, or do you find that it's very much just sort of like your alley in terms of like the way that you're doing wedge style painting?
Yeah, there's not a ton of people that are doing my style. I draw a lot of my inspiration from a lot of Australian artists, actually.
Really?
So I find like my colors and my style and my methods are very Australian based, strangely enough.
Why?
I don't know. I'm really drawn to the artists from Australia that I try to emulate, that I look up to. In Kelowna, I find that it's a lot of like landscape artists and, that sort of thing. So I'm trying to kind of push away from that and maybe break a little bit more abstract into Kelowna.
Yeah. That's very cool. Is that important to you to sort of like change things up in maybe what the art community is like here? Or is that sort of like just that's something that you want to do?
I mean, it's definitely a bit of both. I, of course, want to be recognized for my work, but I also think it's really important. Art can be such a community-focused event as well, the way that you display it and, you charity work and donating pieces and that sort of thing. So you can get a lot of people involved in it too, especially when I do like my live painting. It just brings a lot of people together, and it would be very cool to see Kelowna flourish in all different styles.
Yeah, I totally think so too. I personally find that the art scene in Kelowna, just maybe because I'm not so a part of it just yet, or at least I don't feel that way. I feel like there's just not a whole lot of cohesiveness when it comes to everything, right? It's just sort of like everyone fends for themselves.
Yeah.
And I think more of a community vibe would be really healthy for a place like this.
It can be difficult as an artist starting out because
Yeah.
there are a lot of there are like the very well known artists, and they definitely lock in the scene exactly, and so it can be difficult to break into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely been a bit of a struggle for me.
Definitely. But, that's why we do this kind of thing, though.
Exactly.
Like, we try to get people's names out there. We try to, like, do cross-promotional stuff or, like, whatever. Have you ever, I was looking at your art, too, by the way. Some of the sort of, like, especially the colors that you chose for today's piece that I saw when I came over to take your photo. Like, have you ever thought about maybe like selling your art to a musician for album artwork, or just like maybe collaborating with other artists around here? Like maybe having, say, a base, like your painting as a base for somebody else to sort of go on top of to do their own thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I love to collaborate with other areas of art. It's very cool to be able to bring music and paint and everything else just together to have such a neat vibe together,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, totally. I think that'd be a really cool thing to see. I would love to see like somebody maybe drawing some like symbols on top of your painting or just like anything like that. That's at least as far like that's what I just sort of see, but obviously what you're doing now is like great. Obviously. That's why I have you on here. So that's very, very cool. Yeah. And so do you mostly post all your stuff just on to Instagram to show and then they see you in person for them to buy, or do you have like an online web store?
I do, yeah. I have my website, www.jaidebateman.com.
Mm-hmm.
And I have an online store that people can buy from. Mostly my Instagram is for like my progress and like, hey, here's what I'm doing today. Like people really like to see the process, and so that's what I use Instagram for mainly. And then I use my website for my events of what's coming up and my pieces, my like personal gallery of what's available for sale and what I have done. Yeah.
Right. And where do you want your art to go? Like what do you ultimately want to see come out of the whole thing?
Well, my main goal is to be able to go full time at some point and just pursue it completely. Be able to have like my own studio that's not in my house.
Yeah.
I find it difficult sometimes to separate life from painting because it's so meshed together right now.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my goal, is to make it like my job that I love.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a tough thing to do, but I honestly think that if you have the passion for it, and as long as you keep up putting out quality stuff, you'll be able to get into it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and a lot of this whole thing is networking too, which is, of course, why I wanted to get to know you a little more. Because even though we've known each other for like quite a few years, I literally had no idea that you were an artist. So it's cool to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. And so, so I normally save this for the end, but like people can find all your stuff on Instagram, just like you were just saying.
That's right. Yep.
How do you spell Jaide Bateman, by the way, for the people that are listening?
Yeah, it's Jaide. Bateman is Bateman. It's Batman with an E in the middle.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Great. Very cool. Did you have any other messages that you wanted to bring out into the world about the things that you're doing, or like anything in general that you're interested in regarding the art scene at all?
Yeah, I mean, I just really hope that I'll be able to collaborate with other artists in the future, and I really want to be able to move my art forwards, and I hope to be able to, create a space where people can feel comfortable like coming to me about art and stuff like that. I'd love to pursue workshops. Actually, I'm taking my yoga teacher training upcoming in October. So what I really want to do is integrate yoga and art, and maybe with the yoga you can set your intention of, where you want to be by the end, and then go and relay those feelings onto a canvas. I thought that would be a really neat kind of therapeutic thing for people to do.
I think so. 100%. Yeah, for sure. And Mike, what about you? Do you have anything any messages that you want to get across to the world at all, and to anything to our listeners?
Yeah. I just I think that sometimes people kind of get in their heads sometimes about when it comes to art, and everybody should just know that art is for everyone. You know, just because you walk into an art museum and you look around and go, I don't understand any of this or whatever, doesn't mean that you're not an art person or art's not for you or whatever, because something else is right around the corner and you don't know what it is. So just get out there and explore, look at it, and you don't have to even fully understand it. I think for some people too, part of it is a mystery in the painting. If you see something in it and you like it or it intrigues you, then maybe that's the art for you, and it's just, don't be afraid of it, or don't think, oh, I'm not part of that community or whatever. Art is for everybody. It's everywhere, and everybody's going to have different tastes, but just get out there, explore it, and you just never know when something's going to hit you in the face and just go, wow.
Yeah, and alternatively too, for people that want to like try their hand at art for the first time and painting and that sort of thing.
Like me.
Yeah, exactly. Like Mike has picked up a paintbrush like maybe 5 times before I met him, and he's actually been doing some really phenomenal pieces himself.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's sort of well, because I get to sit there and watch a lot of it, and so I had a few ideas of my own, and I was really intrigued by the pour painting initially, and then thought, hey, I want to do this and I want to do that, and so of course I turned to Jade and said, I want to do this. How do I do it? And so then she'd sit there with me and go, okay, we'll do this and try that. No, you need a little more paint, and and now it's at the stage where she'll buy me a canvas and come home and say, well, this one's for you, and then I just start gobbing some paint on and spread and paint and try to do what I can and see what works.
Damn. Now, I said this before. This is not a relationship podcast, but Jade, how does that make you feel?
I love it. I love that I can share my passion with him. It's really beautiful.
That's wild. That makes me feel good. Damn, that's so sick.
Well, and it's good too, because then also too, like, it helps me. That was one of the major things that really helped me sort of understand where she comes from as an artist. Whereas, so like before, like maybe I'm cooking dinner in the kitchen, she's painting away, and I can hear like, darn it, or whatever, and she's, I know something's going on, and I'm going, well, I don't understand exactly what's happening or why it's frustrating, but I'll just leave you to it. And then painting myself, I now understand why, when you have some like a vision in your mind's eye and you're trying to produce that, and it's just not doing what you want, and it can be like a roadblock. But I really understand a lot more like why she enjoys it, and I just want her to keep going with it, because I totally get it now.
Yeah, from what I'm hearing, you gained a lot of insight from all this, which is very cool. I hope that a lot of the listeners that I have will experience the same sort of deal, because maybe the people that are listening aren't maybe visual artists like you guys are, but hopefully this would inspire them to do that.
Absolutely.
And that's obviously why I had you on here, because I think what you guys do is like very, very cool and inspiring, and so that's friggin' amazing.
Thanks.
Where do you want your painting to go, Mike?
Oh gosh, right now they just hang on the wall of the man cave. Just paint what I can to make the place look cool, and I don't really have a goal towards like really kind of getting anywhere there. It's just more so just the enjoyment and being able to paint something and go, wow, I did that.
Yeah.
I don't think we have the space in our place for 2 full-time artists at this point.
It already looks like a gallery in there.
Maybe one day.
It does look like a gallery, but I love it though. I think it's very cool, especially since you're making the room to have such a big piece. I swear it almost looked like it was taller than me, but that's awesome. Yeah. By the way, I'm 6 foot if anybody was wondering. But yeah, no, it's very cool. I really respect that. That's awesome. Mike, do you ever showcase your art online at all? Like post anything?
I haven't posted anything myself. I live in the dark ages. I am so not media savvy, so I never put anything out there. But Jade's put the odd piece or two out there for me just to sort of get some feedback. There was one piece I was stuck on in particular, and I just didn't really know like what else should I add to it. So she put it out there for some community feedback. What do people think it might need? A little bit of this, a little bit of that, and search for some suggestions. But right now it's just a casual fun thing.
Cool.
Painting's fun.
Yeah. honestly, you don't have to take painting seriously at all.
Not
you
at
can
all.
you can just totally just do it for fun, and that's fine.
Happy
Yep.
little trees.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Rest in peace, Bob Ross. Exactly. That's wonderful. Yeah, great. That's amazing. Thank you very much for coming on to my podcast.
Thank you.
I really, really appreciate it a lot. It was a blast listening to you guys talk. And so before we go, I wanted to just let you all know that once again, we are all on Spotify. We are on Apple's podcast app, and we are also on Overcast and all the other major streaming platforms for you to hear the wonderful voices of all the guests that come by. Thank you very much for listening. Don't forget to follow us, like us all over on Facebook and Instagram, and also don't forget to follow Jade as well on her Instagram. And Mike, do you have an Instagram?
No.
No? Okay.
I barely use Facebook.
Oh, you only use Facebook?
Barely.
Barely. Oh, okay. Well, follow us all. We'll follow you back. And thank you for listening. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.